Welcome back. I've changed positions. First of all, let me apologize for episode 2. I don't know if I'm going to publish it yet or not. It depends on how much I can stand the mic issues as I'm editing. But I was just real quickly checking things and noticed that not only did the mic get funky part of the way through and cause that real mechanical echoey sound, but then it went out. And I think part of the problem was, even though it was on, I think the transmission wore out or something like that. I don't know. At any rate, I'm sorry. And so you didn't get to hear my ending thoughts, ending stuff. So basically, to try to keep this short, I think it's going to be interesting where things go with the interrogator, who seems to have the softer approach to things, but also recognizing where he's also jaded, for lack of a better way of putting it, in his field. He's recognizing where he's complacent in some of the issues. So even though he doesn't have that hit him first, knock him down, all full steam ahead kind of attitude to start with, he is recognizing some of his own faults. So I think that's interesting. Let's see here. So that's the interrogator. I think the Steve character, the husband of the one lady, who I guess he's not technically her husband anymore. I don't know. I don't know the official stuff and all that. I think it's going to be interesting what role he plays, because you can see him being on the fence about some stuff and questioning some things and that sort of stuff. But every time he's tested, he's still loyal to David. But you can see that hesitancy. He's questioning things. I think Thibodeau is interesting. They focused on him a lot, so I think he's going to have a role in things. I think that will be interesting, because he just seems like a lost soul who just wants to belong, and make everybody happy. So it'll be interesting to see where things go with him. I guess he's a detective. I don't know what his official title is. Luis's character. I think that is an interesting dynamic, because it's showing that he's not agreeing with how they're handling things. I don't think he's necessarily on David Koresh's side, at least not yet. I don't know if that's where things are headed. But you can tell he doesn't agree with some stuff. And he definitely doesn't agree with how his agency is dealing with things. And he's that one that's trying to question and trying to intervene and saying, hey, we really need to think about this. I don't know what's going to happen with him, especially since he tried to stop things. And, he tried to say, listen, I can't confirm where the guns are. I can't confirm that there are guns. They're not where he was told to look, or at least not as far as he could tell. That'll be interesting. I also noted when I was reviewing that episode 2 ended where episode 1 started. So that's kind of interesting. You got just enough flashback to kind of quickly catch you up with things. You got to see some of the manipulation with David Koresh. You could also see the charming side of him. You also saw some of the narcissism or narcissistic traits. That's interesting. So we'll see. So this is episode 3. I forget how many episodes there are, but this is episode 3, and let's see where we go from here. And they probably don't have an accurate count of everybody that's in there, the women and the children. And so that's probably a negative as well.
Get all the women and children upstairs right now.
I forget how long. There was a standoff. I forget how long the standoff was. I remember the government finally backed off. I remember that footage. And that looked like actual footage.
I have ATF headquarters.
Although they
their agents on.
Quit trying to talk over it. They could have reimposed it and added to the lines and everything. But that is the exact scene that I remember from the news when this was all breaking. So it's possible that's actual footage there. It might not be. I don't know if that was actual footage, but I know that first part was.
Camera guy! You got a phone?
In my van!
Go get help!
Me? You didn't bring a phone?
Just go call for help! Go!
I would have had the same questions. They didn't have cell phones back then, but they did have... wait, what year is this? They might have had cell phones. But more likely satellite phones, maybe. I don't know.
No, you don't understand. I'm just a cameraman.
Listen, I don't give a cow's ball who you are. You tell the ATF to stop shooting.
Ceasefire! Ceasefire!
Okay, it looks like a regular cell phone. They just weren't common back then. Well, that's driving me nuts. Let me check what year. Because they weren't on campus when I was in college. When I first had mine, it was an analog. 1983, mobile phone launched on the first 1G network by Ameritech. And took over a decade to reach the market. So that would have been 93. So if Waco was in 93, then cell phones were just starting to hit the market. So you're probably going to see them amongst businesses before you see them with individuals. But military and government agencies should have satellite phones, cell phones, that sort of thing, because they would have had them before the public would have. All right. I was thinking there were 3 agencies involved in this, not just the ATF. Thought the FBI was involved, and then another one like the DEA, and they may be coming into the situation. That's that. I told you, idiot. Look. So this is FBI. He must be getting called in now to help clean up the situation. And I think he's getting tired of cleaning up situations.
They do this.
David was right. They'll do anything to keep the truth from getting out.
So because the government, the ATF, went headstrong into this, it's now reinforced his beliefs to fully side with David, whereas before he was on the edge. So definitely a mishandling there.
And I'm sorry you didn't learn the 7 seals. But I will show you mercy. And God will show you mercy too, okay?
So if he thinks he's dying, then he has nothing to lose. So this will be his chance to make a name for himself, get his message out there. And so if he can't be there for his message, at least his message will live on.
Hey, can somebody open the door? Come on. Help!
I can understand him wanting to get to his wife and kid, if it is his kids, but wanting to get back to his family. But at the same time, he was warned to stay away. So, yeah.
Tony Prince, SAC.
Mitch Decker, tactical.
Gary Nessner, lead negotiator. Come on. You up to speed?
Pretty much.
Have we established contact? There's been some preliminary talks between Karish and the ATF, but our guys are still setting up. How should I coordinate negotiations in tactical? All communications go through me. I'd prefer if I spoke with Mitch directly. That way we're always on the same page. I find that I don't care what you find. You go through me. That's how we're doing it.
Copy that.
Too many chiefs.
We're still in the process of securing the perimeter. We're just about to lock it
Too many
down.
egos.
Secure the perimeter. Well, if you want. The whole world's gonna hear my message. And just imagine what's gonna happen when they do. It's gonna be unlike anything they've ever known.
That narcissism.
Long, but for our end of the bargain, here it is.
I, David Koresh, agree upon the broadcasting of this tape to come out peacefully, with all the people, immediately. The first thing I'd like to introduce in our subject is the reasons for the revelation of Jesus Christ. In the book of Revelation, commentary states what John has written in Scripture is nothing other than the revelation of Jesus Christ. We see in chapter 5 that John begins to weep until one of the elders says, "Weep not. Behold."
That scene with Thibodeau's mom. I can't quite tell if this is what she's thinking, but it's as if she's definitely concerned about her son, but also realizing that it is a cult. After she said about the 13 grandchildren, and now he's doing the religious talk and everything. And so now she's, of course, very worried, even more worried than she was before about her son. So I think,
You ever see The Lawnmower Man, Gary?
No, David, I haven't. Oh, it's a good movie. You should see it.
it's a terrible
It's about a
movie.
simple man.
I watch it, but it's terrible. So if you haven't seen that movie, it was supposed to be based on a Stephen King novel. It has nothing to do with the Stephen King novel. I always watch it as a guilty. It's not a pleasure. I always watch it, but it is horrible. It's one of the, it's a car accident you just stare at, you know? So this man that you would often refer to as a simpleton, gets treated the way David Koresh is describing. And there's a man who, I think it's Pierce Brosnan. Is it Pierce Brosnan? At any rate, he starts using the Lawnmower Man in his research, something to do with video games, or it's set as a video game, but it's not I forget exactly everything. It's been a while since I've watched it. But basically, he becomes so intelligent in this process that he can actually overtake the internet and machines, electronics, all that kind of stuff. And the end of I can't remember if it's the very last part of the movie. I think it's the very last scene as they're zooming out. You hear all of the telephones ringing at the same time. And so that's what he's referencing. Now, all that being said, did he really reference that in real life? Is that true? If so, I wouldn't reference that movie. I'll have to look into that and see if that was a real reference or not. They might have been just doing it for the show. I know sometimes they have to get permission from different corporations to mention this or mention that or use this, use that. And so they might have used the Lawnmower Man instead of whatever he originally paralleled to. So I'll have to try to remember to look that up. Okay, so it was almost done. I could have waited to make that last comment. I can't tell. It looks like my eyebrow's sticking up. I've cut all the wild hairs though, so it shouldn't be. So this is interesting. I feel bad for Jake because he's being thrown under the bus. And it was not his fault. He was doing as instructed. He was giving them information, and he knew things were going to go bad just based on the way things were. And he tried to warn them, and then they throw him under the bus saying it was all his fault. I side with Jake. I'd be livid, and I would want to scream to the world what really happened. We'll see if that happens or not. It seems like FBI interrogator seems to I don't know why I can't learn his name. He seems to realize that the ATF is doing a lot of lying, especially since the tape went missing. And the fact that both sides seem to like Jake, or at least initially seemed to, told the interrogator a lot about Jake, that he's not a bad guy, per se. We'll add that little bit there. I'm interested in how all that plays out. Of course, now, because as the interrogator, he could guarantee that they would play the entire message, but he couldn't guarantee the networks were going to keep playing it. Why, as a network, would I play this messaging that is just bonkers? Yeah, I'll let a little bit play, and then I'll do commentary for the rest of it. So he would have had to have made a deal with all the networks and said, listen, he is not going to let those people go unless you guys play this full-on rant that he does. So that's a shame. Those are the main things that stood out to me. Of course, everybody is reinforced in supporting David. Perry dying, that's sad to see because he was one of the, it's all sad. I don't want to minimize anything. But Perry was the one that was standing with David in the doorway when they were both shot. So he was shot before the whole battle went down. And it's sad that he was in so much pain that he asked them to end it. Trying to think. Those are the main things that stood out. Like I said in the other one, I don't know if it came across in the other one because I haven't edited yet. I'm not a big wrap up, dive in deep type of person. Let me pause things and let me look up if I can find out if David Koresh actually did that parallel to Lawnmower Man. Okay, so I looked and Apparently, according to an article in the Washington Post back on July 30th, 1995, entitled Faith and Fanaticism, The Ashes of Waco, an investigation by Dick J. Revis. Apparently, David Koresh liked The Lawnmower Man so much that he showed the 1992 film to his Branch Davidian followers as an analogy to his own spiritual ascendancy. Based on a short story by Stephen King, the techno-thriller Tales of a Retarded Churchyard Man named Job, who blossoms into a mega genius under the tutelage of Dr. Angelo Angelo in search of the perfect human, uses virtual reality computers and mind-altering drugs. I forgot about the mind-altering drugs to boost Job's brain power, but the experiments get out of hand. So, okay, apparently that's real. I wouldn't have thought that. So at any rate, I hope things are recording right now because the headphones, apparently they cut off at about an hour because they just cut off on their own again, which seems weird because it's supposed to have 8 hours of 30 hours of talk time or something like that. They're gaming headphones. So, and I know diehard gamers are on their games for over an hour. So I don't understand that. But otherwise, they're really good headphones. They're really clear. I like them. The microphone, if I can get that figured out, seems to work well. But I was doing this so that you don't hear the playback coming from the computer going into the microphone and screwing things up that way. It's not as nice a presentation, so I was trying to avoid that. So those are my thoughts on the show. Interesting. That's all I got to say. I can't believe the Lawnmower Man's real. Well, we'll watch episode 4 next. Thanks, everybody.